I'm gonna try to see if I can film 2 videos before my dad and my cousin come back from their little golf round, because they did say they wanted to go out to eat, and I know they're gonna interrupt my filming if they come home before I finish these filming these, and I hate that. I hate it when, like, I mean, I understand they want to make sure I'm home and that I haven't been kidnapped or something. Um, and it's just kind of annoying because it's like I'm filming and I can't. Of course, there's no way they'll know ahead. My dad can know ahead of time. But either way, I'm gonna try to squeeze in 2 videos. I'm gonna film one video that's a Christmas related video, but it's not about books. It's actually about Christmas movies. I tried to film it before, but it got too long because I was talking about my favorite Christmas movies, and I am so bad at giving a summary because I end up giving up too much information when I don't need to. And especially if it's a movie that you haven't seen, then you don't want to be, or a book you haven't read, then you don't want to know what happens. You want to be surprised. I mean, but I could also, be like, okay, I'm gonna post spoilers because if it's an older movie, then you might or might not have seen it. So, and then the other one is gonna be more of a book-related video, but not a Christmassy video. And I just wanted to get into the regular having a filming videos and posting them on certain days because I do hear in the YouTube algorithm that it's better to post video, like have a video schedule so that it will get your videos out there. So I'm trying to do that because I do, so I'm gonna do the hopefully shorter one first. Although I'm not off to a good start with that, because you know me, I like to ramble a lot. So this first one is an actual book-related video. Let me find where I took notes because I use my handy-dandy notebook. One of the many handy-dandy notebooks that I have, because like a lot of readers, I have a lot of notebooks. Okay. So I'm gonna list to you guys, well, okay, so this is kind of an idea. This is an idea I had inspired by another type of video. There's a tag, an older tag that has books I'll probably never read. So I thought about, like, because there are a lot of authors that I will probably never read, and I thought I would give you some of those authors. And a lot of them are from the same genre, actually, and a lot of them are and they're also from the same type of book as in the audience that they're meant for. So, but like that, as the word probably indicates, there's a small chance that I might consider reading these. I mean, last year there's a genre. I mean, the books that these authors, the genre these authors write for, I have read. I have made some exceptions last year and had read some books from those genres last year because, I was thinking, what the heck, I can just borrow it from the library, and if I don't like it, if I hate it, I can return to the library, and it's a quick read. But I try to avoid that. If it's something that a genre that I told myself I wouldn't, if it's genre I'm definitely sure I don't want to read, then I'm not going to read a book from that genre just because, but it doesn't hurt to try. So, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But anyway, let's get started before people come home. Okay, like I said, these are offers that I probably will never read, so probably meaning there is a small chance. So, the first one I have here is John Green, who writes YA contemporary dramas. I think he's just contemporary author, but a lot of his books I think are very much dramas. Like, with a little bit of comedy, like dramedies, probably. But, like, he wrote The Fault in Our Stars, Looking for Alaska, what else? He's written a lot of books. And I think he was the author who wrote that, he was the co-author of What If It's Us? Or, not What If It's, or, I can't remember, is it called What If It's Us? The one where the two guys have a meet cute at the post office and one of them just broke up with his boyfriend? Oh, and I only know about this because of BookTube. If you're on BookTube and you happen to follow an author that also reads your favorite genre and then a genre you wrote, you still probably hear about it. So, I think he co-wrote that with Becky Albertalli. I don't know if that's the name of the book or not. I might be getting it mixed up with another book. And I'm trying to think of what other books does he write. He's very famous. I mean, I'm sure. Well, I probably don't need to tell you guys that he's a very famous YA author. And this is not my kind of book. I don't want to. When I read for escape, and that like I said, most of these authors are going to be contemporary. And when I want to escape, I want to escape. I don't want to go into a world that I recognize. I mean, I might make exceptions here and there. Like, I still like historical fiction. You can say that it's a world I'm familiar with. I mean, I'm not from the time period that I read about, but it's still, the real world set in a different time period. So things are different. They don't have the same modern technology and the way women were treated back then, and and all there were, but there. So I mean, that's probably why, because I'm still escaping, even if it's still the real world. It's the real world back before I was born. So I don't want to read a book that's set during my world where it deals with problems that I've seen all the time. I mean, yeah, they're not my exact problems, and there are a couple books that I thought about that, I could kind of relate to that person, but I don't want to completely relate 100% to the characters. I want to escape, and I don't want to read about, even if it's something, heartbreaking, like love, your first love, or the love of your life is dying or something. That's definitely not escaping. I may not be able to entirely relate to that, and I can't relate to someone, having what happened in Fault in Our Stars to the girl. She had cancer, I believe, the two kids. But I don't want to read about that. I don't want to. If I'm going to be sad in a book, I want it to be because, someone died in a war or something. Essentially, I don't want to read contemporary because I want to escape. And I hate to say it, but on some level, I can understand my best friend who's doesn't want to read YA books because she's like, oh, I can't relate to those people because I'm not a teenager. She's in her mid-30s. And I guess in a way, there are some lines I won't, I don't read YA contemporary for that reason, ironically. Because I still kind of get mad. I still get a little defensive. And I'm not all YA is bad, and it's not all childish and juvenile. And it's not, and that's why I read fantasy, because sometimes these teenage characters are given adult responsibilities. They have to save the world and stuff. So I have no interest in John Green. But who knows, maybe that will change. Maybe I'll read one of his books. And so next, number 2 of the author that in fact, this is an author I will most likely never read. That is Colleen Hoover. And I have heard a lot of mixed opinions about Colleen Hoover. A lot of people say her books are problematic. And I don't want to get in that. I don't want to start reading her books and get mixed up in that can of worms. I mean, I've already heard some stuff about Cassandra Clare, who I still like. I still love her. I still enjoy her books. And even Brandon Sanderson. I've heard some stuff about how they act as people. I heard that Cassandra Clare is not always nice to her fans. And her books aren't literary masterpieces. They're flawed. There's cliches and tropes in there, and some people just don't like them. And then I've heard some things about Brandon Sanderson, that he's even homophobic. But I just started, in the case of Brandon Sanderson, I just started reading his books, so I don't want to think in the back of my head, I need to stop reading his books. Now, of course, there's solutions to it. People could if they still are enjoying reading their stories, their books, if a part of them still wants to read their books and get lost in the worlds that they create, then you can buy cheaper versions of those books. And online, usually it's cheaper than at the store. Or you can get them in a used bookstore. Unfortunately, my used bookstore, there's a slim chance that some of the really popular, there's commercialized authors will be there, um, like, there's some Stephen King books there. It's a very small amount. And occasionally I've seen, like, Harry Potter books and stuff like that, and Donna Tartt books. But it's a lot of mystery. Like, there's more Michael Crichton books, and the guy who wrote Jurassic Park, by the way. There's more of his books than there are Stephen King books. Because it's a used bookstore, so it collects donated books, and originally this was a retirement community, so, and old people are not going to want to read Sarah J. Maas, So, I don't know if, it's a slim chance. I have gotten lucky a few times and found a couple Brandon Sanderson books there. And there's like a table of bins with kids' books and young adult books, and then there's some fantasy and sci-fi. But that's about it. It's not that, it's mostly mysteries and literary books. So, I don't think I'll ever find Colleen Hoover there if I was interested. But anyway, so I've heard I don't want to get mixed up in that. I don't want to be stressing and feeling guilty that I still want to read this author's books, even though as a person, they're not a great person. I don't want to be fighting with myself in my head, being like, oh, she's a problematic author. Now, I don't know, in this case, I don't know if she's a problematic person, but it still is kind of the same thing, where oh, if I read her books, then part of me argues, well, if I read her books, am I giving people the impression that I support her problematic elements? But then it's but it's fiction. It's a book. It's just for fun. Books are for entertainment. And sometimes there are books that you learn things from, and just by reading, you learn, and you increase your brain and your intelligence just by reading. That's why why it's important to read to your kids and try to get them into reading, because it will help you a lot. It will increase your vocabulary. It will increase your knowledge of things, not just your knowledge of words, but and it doesn't have to, and not just nonfiction, But I just don't want to be fighting with myself. I want to be able to read an author's books without feeling guilty and feeling bad that I'm supposedly supporting their bad behavior or their rudeness. I don't want to, I'm still reading Cassie Clare's books, I'm still reading Brandon Sanderson, but there's still that tiny voice in my head that feels guilty that I'm spending money, because I do get them from Books A Million, because they're not at my used books. I can't just buy them cheaper. I can, but online anyway. But I'm not the one who orders stuff. My mom usually does the ordering online. So yeah, and plus, and again, she's a contemporary author, and I just have no interest. She wrote Ugly Love. I can't think of what else she's written, but, okay, next is more an author that is up my alley, that I probably will never read, but at this point, I feel like it's a little too late for me to get into it. But there is a chance that I might read. There's a small, slim chance, because my nephew, Harrison, does read. He enjoys reading. Right now he's at that stage where he's just really good at memorizing the books, and he wants you to read to him all the time. But I don't know if he necessarily comprehends when he's reading. He might comprehend some of because, children's books are pretty easy. But, and that is Rick Riordan, who writes mostly the mythology books, and he has his new imprint, where people who write, other authors who write the same kind of books he does, he publishes them he has a publishing company, I guess, and it's for middle grade, and yes, I am getting into middle grade more. I love the Nevermore. I'm really enjoying the Nevermore series. And I don't know if it's called Nevermore or not, because the second book is called Wondersmith, The Test of Worincrow, or something along those lines. And, but I'm just going to call it the Nevermore series. So, and I do love fantasy, and so I have read a few middle grade books, and I love fantasy. But I just, And it does, and it teaches you a more simplified version of mythology, if you're interested in it. And I do, and like I said, the little exception is if Harrison wants to read those books, that maybe I will read them with him, or I'll just read them, not necessarily with him, but I will also read them too. But I don't. Right as of right now, I'm thinking it will be kind of hard for me to get into them, and it's tricky with middle grade. Because yes, I love the Morgan Crow series or Nevermore series or whatever it's going to be called, but it was the good timing with that one. And I feel like when you're reading it, in some cases, it is about timing. Because the middle grade writing style, because I know it's written for younger audiences, and I'm like 29 years old, so I'm way too old for those books. At least that's what they say. The writing style is not meant for people my age. But then it's like, but I still enjoy them when it is good timing. I enjoy them, and they're fun plots, and they're simple, and but then at the same time, sometimes if it's not the best timing for me, I get aggravated with the simple story structure and the simple writing and stuff like that, and I keep thinking, the stakes aren't high enough. Like, I read The Five Kingdoms, the first book, and I was and one of my criticisms was I felt like the stakes weren't high enough. I mean, it was fun, and the world that they were in was kind of cool and fun, but it still felt, I kept thinking, of course these kids aren't going to die, and, yeah, they might put in dangerous situations, and there were some scary moments, and maybe the books will get scarier if I decide to continue the series, but I get so frustrated in middle grade, and I have to remind myself, okay, this is not written for people my age. So, of course the writing is going to be simple. But then, like I said, there's situations like Nevermore where I really enjoyed it. I absolutely loved it, and I put, the second book on my Christmas wish list, and it's on my shelf somewhere. But, yeah, so, middle grade, it's a little tricky. So I might read it one day, but I feel like it's, and it's really just about, I'm sure they're great stories, and he's a good writer, and I'm sure they're cool, and that's the other thing. I don't like being pushed to, if, I don't want people to be like, oh, you should read them, they're so good. I don't like being pushed. I mean, to read something where people keep recommending it to me. I want to decide on my own if I'm interested. Now, sometimes I'll make exceptions, like if one of my best friends recommends a book to me, then I might make an exception there. But, which is going on right now, but I don't know if, even then, I don't know if I'm going to do that. Because really, that particular genre, that book my friend recommended is from, it's kind of boring me. I'm like, I love the movie version of the series, but not the book itself. But, there's other books, so who knows, maybe I'll like the other parts of the series. But I might give it a year, and then if I still haven't read it in a year, then I might be like, okay, I'm sorry, but I just can't read this book. It's boring me. Okay, so next is one that I did think about reading for a second, and that is Rainbow Rowell. Not Rowell. I don't know how to say her last name. She's the one who wrote Fangirl. She did she did Attachments, Landline. She's another one that has written a lot of books. A mixture of young adult and adult books. Like, I think Attachments is an adult book. And that one's actually, wait, no, it's Landline that's at the library. I saw Landline there. And I've been thinking about getting Fangirl from the library because that's the one I was interested in. But they only had Carry On. And I didn't want to read the spin-off book about the fan fiction if I didn't have Fangirl to reference it. But now it's a little too late. Now I look at it at the bookstore, I'm like, I'm not interested in this. I'm not going to pay like $20 for the, because as of right now, the paperback is still not at Books A Million. My Books A Million anyway. And I'm not going to, ask my mom to get it for me online. And it will never be at the used bookstore, and it's not in the library. So it's a little too late, I'm sure her stories are good. They're cute, fun little stories and everything, but let's face it, a lot of contemporary, especially in the YA genre, not genre. I don't like calling it a genre. I don't know why. I guess I've heard so many people refer to YA as a genre, that I'm saying it, even though I don't look at it as a genre. But anyway, but yeah, if it's especially if it's a YA contemporary, maybe I would, maybe there's a small chance because, like I said, I read one of Becky Albertalli's books in this last summer, but I just no, it won't. It's probably not gonna. And again, I say probably because there is a small chance. I mean, I don't. But anyway, So the next author is not one that's popular in BookTube. It's one of those commercialized offers you see at the store all the time. You see this author's books at the grocery store. It's one of those ones like Michael Crichton and a few others. Ones that you see them there. When you see them, you recognize them. And that is Tom Clancy. He is the author. And in case you don't know, because this is BookTube, you guys probably don't know, and maybe there's probably a select few people who recognize the name Tom Clancy, but he's the guy who writes the Jack Ryan series. But I wanted to mix it up and throw in an author that's not as known on BookTube that I probably will never read. But Jack Ryan, he's like they did a movie years and years ago starring Tom Cruise, and then now there's a show on Netflix, starring John Krasinski as the title character. And I definitely, even though I have no interest in the books or the show or anything like that, I'm glad that it's John Krasinski because I prefer him over Tom Cruise. I mean, I'm sure he's a decent actor, but I do not like Tom Cruise. Anyway, and I don't care how attractive he is. For me, they still have to also be someone I like because of their acting. Luckily, it's that way with Robert Carlyle from Once Upon a Time. He's good looking and he's a good actor. More than good, but we're not talking about that, so. Basically, crime dramas. I don't like them. I have no interest in them. They bore me. I don't want to read that. I don't want to read about, I made an exception once. Years ago, I read, James Patterson's books, and he would be on this list, but he's another one of those commercial authors. He wrote The Women's Murder Club. He wrote that other series, Alex Cross, and I think Denzel Washington did the movie version of the character, Alex Cross. He writes that series, and he also has his own imprint, like Rick Riordan does. And one of the books from his imprint is the where is it? Let me see if I can see. I can't see it. But the Stalking Jack the Ripper series or whatever, I don't think it's called that. If it is called that, I'd be like, seriously? That's the best you can do? Couldn't you use maybe the main character's name or something? But anyway, yeah, he does that one. But anyway, so I went through a period when I read James Patterson's Women's Murder Club series, but I got bored with that really quickly. They were quick reads, but the chapters were like super, there were so many chapters because they were all super short chapters. It's like, okay, is this over yet? Sometimes, yeah, you can get into it because it's really intense and you just want to see the case solved and everything and find out who the killer is. But, it's not and I read the Dan Brown books, which you could say are kind of from that category as well. But they also have some extra stuff like art history and, they have like history, essentially references, so. Dang it, I'm stupid. Okay, that's better. Because of where I sit, the stupid sun, the glare of the sun shines on my computer screen. Okay, so, yeah, I just wanted to throw in. And I have another one that's more commercialized and mainstream on here as well. Next, I will probably never read Ruth Ware. One of those, I think she's a thriller author. Oh, dang it! Okay, I guess I'll only be able to finish up this video, then I'll film my Christmas one tomorrow. Let me do this real quickly. I want to get this before they get inside. Weekwear thrillers, I am no interest in. The same with Tana French, although I attempted Tana French, and she's also someone that the reason, like, for a few weeks ago, I was interested in The Witch Elm because I heard a lot of positive reviews on that one, and that one seemed, from the description, seems more like a mystery than a thriller. But I don't like thrillers for the same reason I like crime dramas. They're boring to me. I mean, the only exception I made for a thriller was The Dark Half. I feel like it was a thriller by Stephen King, but it's Stephen King. So, and it was and they also kind of had a supernatural aspect to it, which was made a little bit more interesting. But no, that does not mean that don't go recommending thriller books with supernatural in it, because I probably will dismiss it. No offense. I want to come to it. I want to decide if I want to read on my own without people directly telling me, oh, you should read this thriller because it has a ghost story in or something. But that's Ruth Ware and Tana French, who are two authors I probably will never read. Like I said, I'm mildly interested in The Witch Elm. And then the last one I'm going to say in this video before I go is Danielle Steel. Now, this romance is definitely another genre I don't want to read. I would rather watch a 2-hour-long movie that's a romance or maybe I'll make an exception with classics. But even then, classics bore me out of my mind when I read the books. If I read a book that's like classic romances, like except for ones like Gone with the Wind or something. But like Jane Austen's, I did not, I liked, but it does have to have a bit more of a historical, like, it can't just be, oh, it takes place in this time period, or, oh, it happens to be around the time that women are trying to get the right to vote, but the historical, it has to be like, a historical event has to play a significant role in the plot, where it's like either, where it's like, where both those two plot aspects are equal in their, yeah, I'm filming. Equal in their importance to the story, like it's during World War I or World War II, or it's like during, Industrial Revolution. But even then, as much as I'm glad I read like North and South, even then that was a little skirting the line. But other than that, so yeah, like I have no interest in reading the ones that you see at the supermarket, the romances that are like at the supermarket or something. And Danielle Steel is one of those authors. She writes sentimental romances. I did watch, although I'm kind of cheating here because I did read one of her books. Because my mom, see, I might have read 2 of her books. So it's kind of a cheat here. Because I have obviously read her books. I didn't think about this until after I, decided I was going to talk about her as one of those authors. But she wrote sentimental, cheesy romances that they couldn't end happy or they could end tragically. I don't want to read that. To me, that's another genre that's kind of boring and predictable. The only unpredictability about it is you don't know if you're going to get a tragedy or a happy ending. And it's just, I would, like I said earlier, I would rather spend 2 hours watching a movie or an hour watching a show, or even binging a show that's a romance, than reading something that's going to take me a week a few days at the shortest, or a month or 2 at the longest, depending on the length of the book. Like, it is true that there are YA authors romance. It's true that romance probably wouldn't take me as long. Like, it usually doesn't take me that long to read it didn't take me as long to read a Nicholas Sparks book, because I did read I went through a period where I read a lot of Nicholas Sparks books. Every time he had a new one come out, or every time I saw one that I hadn't got to yet, I would buy it. But now I just have lost interest in Nicholas Sparks in any romance. Like I said, I will watch it on a movie or TV show, I love it on the screen, but I don't want to spend time reading a book that's a romance. I just have no interest in, like, I don't care if it's historical, like Gone with the Wind took place during the Civil War, and the Civil War was just maybe even more important, and Scarlett's story as an independent character was more important than her romance with Ashley Wilkes or Rhett Butler even. And there's other romances I want to read. I want to read Anna Karenina, but again, it's during a time, I think it's during a very important time in Russian history. So it has to be a very, like, I don't care if it happens to take place during a certain time period, or even if it has fairies in it or something. I mean, I will read Juliette Marillier because she has, but the one book of hers that I've read so far is about not just the romance is secondary to the plot. I want the romance to be secondary to a plot. And yes, I read Twilight, as my friend will point out, when she tries to gets me to read one of her romances. But yeah, and especially someone like Danielle Steel, I won't read because it's very sentimental and sappy little stories that are cutesy and stuff. I'm like, I will watch the Hallmark countdown, Hallmark countdown to Christmas, but then that's it. And I even was telling someone, and we were talking to a customer that I was talking to about it, and I told her, yeah, I can only take those Hallmark Christmas movies during Christmas time, and then that's it. And of course, I think her response was fair enough. She got it. She's like, to each their own. She didn't, but she's an old lady, so of course she's not going to be childish about it and pick a fight with me about it or debate with me. Plus, I was talking to a customer, so we didn't have a lot of time anyway. So yeah, especially someone like Danielle Steel. I mean, this one is definitely not a problem. I will definitely never read it. I mean, maybe I'll change my mind and get into romance, but I mean, I made exceptions. Again, this was one of those genres that I made a couple exceptions into, this past year, and in 2017 or 2018. I don't know. I keep thinking that I'm saying 2017, but I should be saying 2018. But I'm not sure if I read the books I mentioned in 2017 or if I read them in 2018. I don't know. But, like, our elderly couple, doctor friend that reads, he gave me a bunch of books when we first all moved here, because we kind of moved around the same time to here, and one of the books he gave me was by Joanna Lindsey, The Joining, and I read that, and it was cute and nice. It was kind of like it was like a Taming of the Shrew retelling, but yeah, so this video has gone on long enough. I've talked enough. So yes, those are the authors I will probably never read. There are, I'm sure, more. And if you guys are interested in more, feel free to let me know in the comments below if you want to hear me, once again, talk about and ramble about other authors that I won't read, or I probably won't read. And also, if there's any authors you probably won't read, feel free to share in the comments below. And I will talk to you all later. I hope you are enjoying your reading as always, and if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And please click subscribe if you haven't already and you happen to be watching this video. Alright, bye guys.